welcome to the Place to Be Reviews. I am Kuyan with all of yous, and this is Batwoman Episode 6, I'll Be the Judge, I'll Be the Jury review. Now, this episode was completely just as usual. This show hasn't gotten any better. But first, before we get into all that, if you would please subscribe to the Place to Be Reviews. Kuyan's the Place to Be Reviews, that is, on YouTube. We're at 116 subscribers as of the recording of this video. I'd like to get that number up to at least 150 before the end of the year. But back to Batwoman, and it's like they're not even trying anymore. It's like Pam when she decided not to wear her contacts because she forgot them at Jim's. We start the episode with flashbacks of Kate and Sophie in a montage. Fade to some Jacob and Alice. Go back to when she stabbed him in the stomach. Yada, yada, yada. And reviewing this episode it's going to be a chore. Currently, this is at 70% critic score, 12% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes. And it's not getting any better. It's not. The audience score hasn't changed in a while. The amount of reviews goes up and the score stays the same. So this show is it's hemorrhaging viewers. I guess it's down around 700,000 viewers since the premiere. There's been rumors of cancellation after they just ordered a full 22-episode season, and nobody would be happier if the show was canceled than myself. That would get me out of doing these reviews, but you people seem to enjoy them, so I will suffer for my subscribers. The first scene is set to horrible techno, and a Gotham City prosecuting attorney named Angus Stanton is walking through a parking lot when he encounters a hooded figure who chops down an electric pole, and it falls directly on top of his car with a perfect hit, which is plot, right? This hooded figure wielding a large axe is aptly named the Executioner. Pretty original, right? Now, he chops this electrical pole down. Then, as the prosecuting attorney Stant looks on in horror, he knocks the cap off a fire extinguisher, which causes the water to flood all over the parking lot. All right? He has this big Executioner-style axe. Now, he tries to climb the fence, Stanton does, but the water hits the stents. The electric current is going through the water. And, well, he is well done in a matter of seconds. Falls back into the water. But wait, there's more. This prosecutor was a white guy, and he obviously ends up being part of a ring of dirty city officials who obtained false guilty convictions of innocent suspects, mostly minorities and underprivileged people, which we'll talk about more later. And those convictions led to countless executions. See, I told you there was more. We'll touch on this as the episode progresses, and I use that term, the episode progresses, very, very lightly, because this episode really doesn't go much of anywhere. We cut to Jacob Kane, with Kate going over evidence from the residence where Beth, Alice, was held. We saw that in the last dumpster fire of an episode. Jacob and Kate argue about his giving up originally in their search for Beth, which led to her becoming Alice after the psychological manipulation and torture she went through while in captivity, which basically made her who she is. And that was, it's a stretch to say it was torture for somebody like Alice, because she's probably a little bit masochistic, which giggity. I'm a far better, this is bad. I'm a far better writer than anyone who is employed on this show. I think I wrote better fiction in like 5th grade. Sophie enters and tells Jacob he needs to see the news report regarding the death or execution, of Prosecutor Stanton, which of course was conveniently caught on camera. The news report at one point references criminals that Stanton helped bring down, and the name Jack Napier, aka the Joker, stands out. Please tell me the show isn't going to attempt to do a Joker knockoff, because, well, that can't miss. We all know how the knockoff Jokers go. Look at Jared Leto in Suicide Squad. Because if you tell me that was a good Joker, I've got a piece of a bridge I'll sell you. Jacob is upset because the GCPD fired up the old bat signal instead of calling the Crow's security. And then Sophie asks Jacob if she can find out who Batwoman is for her next special assignment. Intriguing, isn't it? We then see Alice sewing a skin mask for a mouse who looks like Rocky Dennis had a child with Buffalo Bill. He's so ugly. Rachel Scarston does her best with the shitty practical effects here, and is her usual over-the-top self as she applies the skin mask replica of a captive Hamilton Industries employee named Dean Devereaux, who has access to a weapon Alice wants. This is the weapon she was trying to get in the last episode from Catherine, when she kind of blackmailed her. Alice and Mouse exchange some horrible dialogue as they go back and forth about killing Devereaux, until Alice gets her way and convinces Mouse to steal the weapon. He's wearing the skin mask, and at one point she puts her tongue through it, and it's just kind of disturbing. We cut to Luke Fox and Kate in Wayne Enterprises discussing the use of the bat signal. Luke tells her that GCPD now trusts her. Fox also says that he wants to catch the executioner because Stanton was the prosecutor who put away his father's killer, which is Lucius Fox, of course, and he kind of expands upon that by saying that it was his graduation party. He was already accepted to MIT. His father, Lucius, went to the store to get more ice, walked in on a robbery, and was shot dead. So they discuss how to narrow down their search for the executioner, which is absolutely hilarious because it's kind of what the Crows are using. Now, speaking of the Crows, we're back at the Crow's Nest. See what I did there? Jacob is giving his tech guy, which is not the technical term for him, but that's just what I'm calling him, because I've already put way more effort into this video than this show deserves. I don't even put this much video into my Walking Dead reviews, and I love that show. But these get exponentially more views, so I'm doing this for you guys, because you seem to like watching me suffer, which is why I'm glad you can't see me through these reviews, as there's a gun to my head. So Jacob gives his tech guy the criteria for locating suspects in the murder of Stanton, and they're looking at security footage. They spot a former prisoner with a violent past named Chris the Fist Medlock, who was a boxer in for murder because he shot someone, a bartender, but he was innocent, of course. He was paroled early due to overcrowding at Black Rock Prison in Gotham. It just so happens that the executioner has hostages in a building, and Jacob dispatches his troops to help the GCPD. Now, Chris the Fist Medlock is, of course, a African-American gentleman. So keep that in mind with all of our crooked, dirty, evil law enforcement officials here being basically all white guys. Detective Donnelly, who is in on the Fist's conviction, so the plot, and that's it, sees Donnelly attempt to make first contact with the executioner to negotiate the release of the hostages. There are none, and like Admiral Akbar said, it's a trap! But Batwoman is already in the building, so Sophie catches up with her and compliments her new wig. Aw, how nice. And Batwoman turns on her voice modulator, which basically makes her sound like me. Yeah, so this is basically Batwoman's voice. Yeah, it's pretty cringy. Like, I haven't even really mentioned that all the action at this point has just been completely cringe. Voice is heard declaring, "Time's up, Donnelly!" And the sound of screams can be heard. Don't worry, they're recording. Because it's a trap! Just like the writing on the show, it's a fucking trap. So Batwoman and Sophie rush to the sound of the screams and dun dun dun! Big speakers with a row of rifles that are attached to some sort of sensor. Donnelly enters, trips the sensor, and is shot to death in a volley of fire. Sophie's hit in the crossfire, and before she passes out, as Batwoman stands over her, telling her that she'll get her help. Sophie says, "Thanks, Kate," and then passes out. Aw, snap. What craziness will ensue after the commercial break? Turns out, later we find out that old Detective Donnelly, like I said, another white guy, was in on the faulty convictions too. We come back to find Batwoman in Mary's clinic with Sophie, still using her man voice. She asks Mary if she can, quote, fix her, and tells Mary to keep her there no matter what. Like, little old Mary's going to be able to stop big, bad Sophie, who weighs all of 120 pounds, but she's a badass. We cut to Mouse in a Devereaux skin mask, bypassing the Hamilton Industries facial recognition scanner with relative ease. Even though he doesn't have the same eyes, I don't even know if he wore contacts, they didn't go into it, and entering the lab that houses the weapon that he needs to procure for Alice. Catherine Hamilton and her team are there waiting in the lab, and he's shocked by this. They congratulate him with a round of applause on completion of his achievement of the coil accelerator. In short, this thing can pierce the Batsuit. Hamilton even says that and hands him the weapon. Luke and Kate are discussing the fact that Sophie knows she's Batwoman, and go on to discuss the Executioner, who they still think is Chris the Fist, and where they're discussing the methods of execution used in Gotham's history. Luke Fox name drops Mayor Oswald Cobblepot, aka the Penguin, and during his term, firing squad was briefly brought back. Yeah, that's right. So now they've referenced Oswald Cobblepot and Jack Napier in this episode. God, please tell me they're not going to do this. So they've referenced Joker and the Penguin. Fuck this show, man. They surmise that the next attack will be in a gas chamber type attack using hydrogen cyanide tablets like in an actual execution. And conveniently, for the plot only, one warehouse in Gotham stores such an item. Cut to the security guard in the warehouse, fanboying out over Batwoman as she makes her entrance. As she asks him for intel, he awkwardly hits on her, asking her out for a drink at one point, saying he's been thinking of getting into the superhero game. And saying that, I get off at 11, and if you play your cards right, you won't be far behind. Ladies and gentlemen, cringe writing as fuck. Chris the Fist is being chased by GCPD and the Crows on foot when we rejoin the program. So, taking this pulse-pounding action sequence, they catch him before Batwoman can get there. And of course, Jacob Kane is in on the collar. Back at the warehouse, as the truck approaches the door and can clearly be heard getting closer, Kate walks right up to the door and gets plowed through as the Executioner walks in, ignoring her laying on the floor, steals the hydrogen cyanide he needs, leaves, and Batwoman's barely injured after getting hit by a half-ton truck. So back at the Batcave, Kate and Luke use the impact data collected from her suit to find a possible suspect in the warehouse theft. And they get a partial license plate, I'm not fucking kidding here, from the impact to her suit, and find out who the truck is registered to. It's a Bertrand Eldon, who was the executioner at Blackgate Prison for 20 years. How convenient. Sophie wakes up in Mary's clinic, and Mary tells her that she patched her up, yada yada yada. Sophie's cuffs to the bed, but later escapes when Mary is coming back, offering her a popsicle. Mary tells her that Batwoman dropped her off. Sophie says she knows who Batwoman is, and then leaves. Who we join as she enters the Executioner's house. Batwoman, of course, and she finds the hydrogen cyanide container conveniently sitting on the coffee table. Fox tells her to wait because it might be a trap, but she just grabs it, opens it, and finds a flash drive, which her and Luke watch, as it turns out to be the video confession of the Executioner, who is Bertrand Eldon, the Executioner from Blackgate Prison, for those of you keeping score at home. A white guy. He spills on how he didn't know that everyone was innocent until he noticed that, quote, this is dialogue directly from the show, everyone who sat in my chair started to look the same. Black, brown, or poor. Never in 20 years was there a rich white guy there. Dare I say it's a bit of a ham-fisted line? But it fits right in with the show. So he goes on to name the third target on his list of evil white guys. I said Eldon's a white guy also, but he's probably an ally, so that explains this. This is just SJW to the 10th power, who happens to be a powerful Gotham judge. This is the last target. Luke Fox even mentions racial profiling in Gotham as they discuss the merit of his confession. We then see Chris the Fist being walked to a transport by Crow security. He's extracted by one of the zip lines from Batwoman, who then throws the flash drive and sticks in the side of one of the Crow's trucks to Jacob on the Batarang. And that's a flash drive that contains Eldon's confession. And, I didn't think she was that worried about breaking the only evidence they have that exonerates the Fist and names the true killer and exposes Gotham law enforcement corruption. And I hope she made a backup just in case that one fucking broke. Alice is sitting and playing chess with Devereaux. She gets a call from quote-unquote Kate, but it turns out to be Mouse, and if we remember from last episode, he can imitate any voice verbatim. Mouse is pissed off because Alice didn't tell him Kate is Batwoman, that That's her sister. They argue over this stupid plot point until Mouse shoots Devereaux with a newly procured weapon and just splatters his shit everywhere. So this poor idiot was just kept around for plot. Cut to Jacob watching the confession. Kate enters. They discuss the evidence he got, which he doesn't believe, and insert another annoying Vesper Fairchild voiceover right before this scene. She's back a couple times this episode. We didn't have her last episode. It was nice because I hate Rachel Maddow's voice. As Jacob calls Batwoman and the Executioner both nut jobs. The third target is a judge, Cal Varick, and Jacob goes on to call the Executioner a social justice warrior who thinks he knows more than the cops and the lawyers. Ladies and gentlemen, ham-fisted again. Kate and Jacob argue that Batwoman interfered and that Batman is to blame for all the crazies. And Jacob even says that there wouldn't be a Joker if it wasn't for Batman, and that they'd still have Beth and their mom would be alive if it wasn't for Batman. Kate says Beth is Alice because they stopped looking for her, and they have that little heart-to-heart. Sophie is then seen escaping, walking out of the clinic. Next up, Batwoman is confronting the crooked judge, who is burning the documents and then tries to bribe her to protect him from the Executioner as the judge runs out and the Executioner's waiting in the courtroom. Convenient. But he is stopped by Batwoman long enough for the judge to escape. And then a horribly choreographed fight scene ensues but this is about the best one they had because the Executioner just throws her around and beats the shit out of her. Until he's shot in the back and killed by Jacob Kane, who then holds Batwoman at gunpoint until the dead man's timer in the Executioner triggers as it's linked to his heart rate monitor. Lockdown protocol in the courtroom is set off, and the hydrogen cyanide is released through the vents, the gas chamber. Get it? I couldn't make this shit up, really. It's that bad. Batwoman eventually causes an explosion using one of her little grenade gimmicks to ignite the hydrogen to burn off the cyanide after her radio convo with Luke Fox during this thing. Jacob is dying because they're both dying because of the gas, but this explosion saves him. Yay, Batwoman. This scene is horrible CGI explosions, much like the Magpie episode. It just looked god-awful. The dialogue between Kate and Jacob is cringy as hell, and we're treated to another use of her cape as a shield during a wonky explosion, and of course they both survive. Yay! More shitty Vesper Fairchild voiceover. Chris the Fist is free and exonerated of his alleged crimes. Mary is visited by Batwoman at the clinic. She's thanked for saving Sophie. Mary then tells Kate that Sophie knows that Kate is Batwoman, and she's probably going to tell her father. Final scene is Kate narrating her letter to Bruce, talking about Jacob, and this is where we get the forgiveness scene between the two of them. They're hugging, and you get the music swells, and Sophie enters, and she sees them and looks at them like, aww. And then she leaves without saying anything, lets them have their moment. The end of the show, Alice and Mouse are in an alley facing Wayne Enterprises building, and he just has the weapon out there in the open with him. They argue over having Kate at their tea party, yada yada yada. Cringy dialogue, Rachel Scarston looking gorgeous but overacting. She gives him back Mr. Pandy, which was his toy as a child, and he gives her the weapon, and that's the end of this abortion, thankfully. Tonight, episode number 75, The Place to Be Reviews presents Monday Night Going in Raw, live 8:35 Eastern, right here on the channel. Be sure to tune in for myself, Coach Loudy, and the Groovinator from Raiders of the Lost Flicks. Yeah, so this episode was completely horrible. I just can't stress enough how cringy this episode was. Full-blown SJW narratives on display. They took them out for a walk. I'm anxious to see how many viewers this loses them this week, because it has just been horrible thus far as viewership goes. Sorry I didn't screenshot any of the reviews from the audience on Rotten Tomatoes. I've been remiss to do that, as I'm going to start doing that towards the end of these reviews. I'll have a couple top negative and positive reviews, and we'll kind of discuss them and use them as points to talk about. You can follow The Place to Be Reviews, on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Our old episodes of the podcast are on Spotify, Anchor, and iTunes. YouTube has a vast catalog of videos and podcast episodes, live stream episodes. That's right. We went back to episode 41.5 and started doing the live streams, and we haven't looked back. So there it is, ladies and gentlemen. all the places you can find us on social media. What did you think of Batwoman Episode 6? Did you watch it? Did you not watch it? Are you just watching my reviews to enjoy my suffering through these? Because, trust me, I've seen this episode 4 times now, and I do not ever want to watch it again. I'm bad. This has been eTempleCooey, the place to be reviews. I've been here with all the yous, and if I don't see you, remember to tune in tonight, 8:35, and have a great day. And, as always, a pleasant tomorrow. Hail the Fandom Menace, friends. Hail the Fandom Menace.